Welcome to the Live Compelled podcast. Take two. This is Nate Ellerton, and we're recording in the wood carving studio with Matt. We just recorded 5 great minutes, and I didn't have it on record, so we're going to do it.
Never get it back.
We're going to do it again, and it's not going to sound as original. But Matt Maraugha is here, and we have been doing a series called Stories, where I'm just interviewing people and asking them about how they got saved, about their family, what the Lord has been showing them, because I just think people, all of us have a unique story, a unique journey, and everybody's journey is unique that the Lord does in their life. And Matt Maraugha has been part of Compelled Church for many years. We figured out on the last take you've been on the board 15 years.
15 plus, yeah, somewhere in there, yes.
Yep. Been the secretary for the board about that long.
About that long.
And man, you and Pat have taught marriage small groups. You're right now do a discipleship group. You're preaching on Father's Day.
Yeah.
We'll talk about your studies and my some. But yeah, tell us about yourself. I know we're connected by blood now, sort of.
We are. We're practically brothers.
Yep, practically.
Our youngest are married, Levi and Macy, and that's an honor for both of us.
For sure.
Definitely a great part of our family. Well, I've been, this November, we're going on our 36th year of marriage.
Man, congrats. Not too many people can say that.
Yeah, well, we've had our moments to where I didn't know if we were going to make 36, but here we are.
Yeah.
I met Patricia back in 87. We got married in 89, and we've had 4 wonderful kids, Mitch, Madison, McKenna, and Macy, as we mentioned, and they're all grown and married. We have 5 grandkids, Liam, Milo, Theo, Louise, and Lorelei, and life is full.
Great.
I went to college in 86 for a year.
Where was that? Which college?
I went to Spring Arbor College.
Spring Arbor, okay.
Yeah, it was a pre-Methodist affiliated college.
You're still at a wrestling team then, or was it over?
Yes, yeah. Both my brothers went there, graduated from there.
Okay.
My oldest brother actually wrestled for Spring Arbor.
Yeah, I almost did.
He got into a tournament, I forget where it was, and wrestled Bruce Baumgartner.
Really?
The multi Olympic champion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
And he come home after that
fact.
weekend. Yeah. He had 2 black eyes, tore up shoulder. I think Bruce toyed with him a little bit, but it was good. It was a good experience for him.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, went for a year and decided that was not, schooling was not enjoyable for me. It just wasn't how I was made up at the time. So I stopped attending there. I only went there a year, and I got into the construction world, picked up the skill trade as a bricklayer, spent 10 years doing residential masonry. In 97, I got into commercial masonry. I joined the union, went to work for company SA Store Masonry in 98, and I've been supervising work for them till the present.
27 years.
Yeah.
Just with them.
Yeah.
Impressive.
Yeah. I'd like to say I raised a family on it. Hasn't always been enjoyable. I'm good at it. I enjoy the work. I enjoy working with my hands, but it's been a struggle just trying to figure out what life and what I'm really supposed to be doing. But that's what God provided at the time. It's what I chose at the time. And I raised family.
Yeah.
I look back, I'm like, God provided.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And it's cool that their kids, they've been in love since they were young.
Yeah, it's amazing. Since nursery, right? Nursery school.
I think we got a picture of them in preschool together.
Yeah.
I remember Levi told me like he must have been in 6th grade, like he was going to marry Macy. And I'm like, Levi, nobody marries their first love. And he's like, well, I'm gonna. And of course, Wendy said that she did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
They did it. They got married. She's
did.
been a gift to Levi's life and to ours too.
Yeah, it's an honor. He's a good man.
Pretty incredible. And they're planting a church in Dutton, Michigan. And I think he said they had 30 or 40 last week. They haven't even gone public yet. They haven't even really advertised.
Yeah, we went there. I don't know. We were there. It's probably been a couple months now, and I think there was I don't know, 6, 7 people there. But you can tell.
Yeah.
Lord's
in it.
He's got a pretty good mentor, I think.
Yeah. Well, Wendy did a good job. We're going this weekend if we don't have another grandbaby, but I'm getting there. I got to get on there and worship with those guys.
Yeah.
They help make him grill me something.
There you go.
Yeah, he's turned into a pretty good grill master.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. That must have came from you because not come from me.
I'll show him everything I know.
That's awesome. Well, Matt, let's jump into your story of your walk with Christ. You know, I've got to see you. Kind of came to us as obviously, I can say you've probably always been a leader. You've been leading at work. You've been leading at church. You've been involved in ministry. You came to us as a leader. You're a key leader at Compelled Church through all the years of growth and decisions. I mean, some of those are we signed some pretty big loans. They were big decisions. And, but how did you find Christ? How did your walk, your discipleship journey go and those seasons?
Well, so I always knew and I was always aware that there was a God. Our family, if the church doors were open, we were there.
Yeah.
My dad was very committed to the church. I grew up in the Free Methodist Church.
Mm-hmm.
But for me personally, there was never a real connection. You know, obviously you grow up in church, so you know there's a God. And
right.
I never experienced or understood what that connection was. Just the atmosphere of what I thought of church and the people that attended, I just really didn't care to have anything to do with it. So I grew up pretty much just not knowing who I was, struggling to figure out what my purpose was and to have any kind of sense of identity. And I lived that way for pretty much 22 years.
Yeah. So tell me the story when that changed.
Whew. Sorry.
No, you're good.
So there's things in life that obviously, no matter how much time passes, there's pain.
Mm-hmm.
And we experienced that, my wife and I. I know there's healing, but we're human beings, and no matter how the healing comes, you know, there's just things that take place in life that are painful, whether it be loss or relational or whatever. And it was that time that we just had a tremendous failing as two people in a relationship. And I had to decide what my future was going to look like, because everybody knows choices we make dictate. I mean, you can read the Old Testament. That's God's gift to us to go back and look and see the choices that people have made and how it's affected generations and time. And I knew that to be a fact of the choices that we were involved in at the time and how, you know, whether we were going to stay married or not. And I knew just growing up in the church that, you know, scripture was where I needed to turn to find out what the right decision was going to be. So I did. I opened up the book of Matthew, and God speaks about marriage and relationships there. And for the first time in my life, I said, well, I'm going to trust you, God, because up to this point, I've made a pretty good mess of things. And I told him, not that I'm going to dictate the terms to God, but I said, if you can get this situation straightened out, and if you can heal us to where we can continue, then I'm in. And that has reverberated now that I see. You know, I was 22 at the time, and now I'm 57, and I look back at that one pivotal choice and see the effect of what if I'd have chose differently, what that would have been like. And by the grace of God, by His leading, by His goodness and forgiveness and His grace and His mercy, obviously we both chose, Pat and I, to make that commitment. And then we made that commitment together again. And here we are.
Yeah. Well, it's always neat how people out of their pain comes such fruit.
Yeah.
You guys have a passion for marriages. You naturally can encourage young couples. You've encouraged dozens and dozens through the small groups through the years, and help them have hope through those hard times.
I know, now obviously you look back and you go, why do things happen? Why do we go through things in life? Why do we experience different things? And you spoke on it Sunday about trials and what they do and how they speak to us and how God enriches us through them. I look at that now, and that's such a passion for us because we know life pivots on choices.
Yeah, I don't know that. I know we know that, but I've known that my whole life. My brother Steve used to tell me that you will go the direction of your choices. Your life will go the direction of your choices.
Yeah.
And but sometimes we don't know that, or we think maybe we're exempt from that. Maybe this choice won't have a bad outcome, or it's just not true.
Well, quite frankly, I lived years not really caring. I had no remorse for my actions. I had zero compassion in my life, and I really didn't care. I was a very self-absorbed person.
And pain broke that?
It was a real slap in the face, let me tell you, to get me to realize that there's other things in this world other than myself. And that unless I realized that, my life was going to be pretty empty.
Something I've noticed about you and Pat is a lot of people attend church. Okay, I've got a lot of attenders. But hearing, I didn't know you when you came. Well, I mean, you started, I think Bill recruited you to lay block on that first little audition.
Yeah, I showed up at Compelled as a bricklayer, not an attendee. Yeah.
But right away I knew, like, as I got to know you, you were doing drama, you were involved in youth ministry. You've never sat at Compelled. You're doing small groups. You're making coffee. You're on the board. You're discipling people. You're encouraging people. You're having people over. You and Pat are always pouring into people and encouraging people. What can you say the benefit of being that kind of active in your local church? Somebody's listening and they're attenders. They haven't done anything for a while. What has the blessing been to you and Pat to be so involved? Because you're a bricklayer. I mean, you come home tired.
Yeah.
You sometimes come to meetings you hadn't ate yet. But you're still involved. And I know some people say, well, I just don't have room in my life, or like, what has been the blessing or the benefit all these years, whether it was at Crossroads, whether it was at Compelled, to being involved in the work of the kingdom?
Well, so with drama and stuff, that's a passion that I picked up late in life. I really didn't experience. I experienced it actually in college for the first time. A friend in college was doing their, I guess you'd call it like their thesis of what their um, program was. They had to direct and write a play, and they asked me to be in it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess. And then I realized, wow, I kind of have a knack for it, and I enjoy it. But that obviously we did it along with the message. So it always tied into the message that the pastors had. And I did that at Crossroads for actually the first time he asked me. I think I came home from college, and I was probably 18, I guess. And I did it with Crossroads for about 10 years, I guess.
Yeah.
Directed and put that all together. And, that's encouraging.
Crossroads was blowing up at that time, wasn't it?
Yeah, sure was.
Yeah.
The growth was incredible.
Yeah.
So, that was encouraging because it took place. But above and beyond that, just dealing with people on a one-on-one basis, especially when it comes to marriages and relationships, that comes out of the fact of my personal experience, Pat's personal experience, to where when you know the difference of a choice, whether it be good or bad, I'm going to tell you something. Because of the compassion that God, Christ showed on us, I would never want anyone to go through the negative side of a broken marriage just because they chose to give up. That's the driving force of me speaking to anyone and encouraging anyone, is that I know the loving Father and what he did for us because we surrendered. And if I can encourage and try to get people to navigate through the issues and to see that there's another side to this. There is hope. There is a life of unbelievable joy if you just don't give up and you just allow God to be the center.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a blessing. It's a driving force. Yeah. I don't know. Obviously, it's a character thing for me. I don't know. I've just always been one to step up because I don't want to see people suffer.
Pat's example, just a serving. You also do coffee.
Yeah.
Just the labor, just making coffee and setting it out, and they're drinking it like it's free. And
yeah,
just the example of that. Not too many people know of our board meetings or the things we wrestle with to make sure our body's healthy and in unity.
Right.
So, man, as a pastor and a friend, man, I'm appreciative for you and Pat, and everybody that's like you guys. We see the blessing of that. So many people involved in ministry. So if we're talking about marriage, and there's some people listening about marriage, how do you and Pat make Jesus the center?
Well, we learned through our whole experience, and I learned personally that I came to Christ. I was a mess. I made plenty of mistakes, and he said, trust me, surrender. I forgive you, and from there we're going to build. We're going to build a relationship together. And it came to us that, it takes a tremendous amount of mercy and grace, and above all else, forgiveness. And my internal mantra is, in dealing with not just my wife, but everyone in general, is I can't sit here and call myself a Christian and daily, mess up or, miss the mark and say, "Oh Lord, forgive me," and just expect it. But yet, in return, not to do that same thing for everybody else. So our key in our relationship is just that, to be Christ.
Yeah.
I have to have grace. I have to have mercy. I have to have forgiveness. It doesn't matter. It's unconditional. It's unconditional. If I'm a Christian, those things are unconditional. No matter the depth.
Yeah. Yeah, we love the mercy and grace of the Lord.
We sure take it, don't we?
Take it in as much as we can get, but giving it sometimes does become conditional. She really hurt me. I can't believe that happened. I don't know if I can forget that. I've done, marriage counseling. It's like, I don't know if I can ever forgive them. And in Christ, I've watched people as they receive Christ's mercy be able to let that flow through. Some great stories of restoration in marriages.
I think that was a key because that was a pivotal point in our lives, in our relationship, in our marriage, was that I had to accept Christ's forgiveness for myself. At the same time, we had to forgive each other for the missteps that we took in our relationship.
Yeah, and obviously that's flown over flowed over into your parenting. You got kids that love the Lord. They married Christian spouses.
We are blessed.
Yeah, that's a blessing. Because I know parents like you and I, and some of their kids aren't walking with the Lord. But I encourage them. Like, the last chapter isn't written yet.
That's right.
Everybody has a season. You never know what's going to happen.
I'm sure my parents thought the same. I'm sure of it.
I know your dad did.
I know he did.
And I always love it when your dad comes, and your mom and dad are great. He loves the Lord, man.
He does.
It's pretty great.
He's
I don't know if I want him to raise me, but he loves the Lord.
Yeah, well, we had to toe the line.
Yeah, I bet you did. He's not little either.
No, he's scrappy.
Yeah, that's really great. Well, he taught you some great leadership.
It's true.
We're all benefiting from that, as did your family and your company and your church. I'm thankful for that. So what's the Lord been teaching you now, lately? Is there got a fresh word that God has been speaking and you've been digging in?
Yeah, I'll tell you, my life just in the last 8 months has taken a real turn. The Lord spoke early in my life about ministry. And at the time, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I don't question my life and how it's gone up to this point, 57 years in. But what God reminded me was, even though I spoke to you 20 some years ago, I never forgot. And my plan is a perfect plan. My timing is perfect, even though there was plenty of times in my life that I just couldn't understand it and hated some of the things that led me here to do. And I mean, being in construction was not my number one choice, but there I look back and I go, my Lord, I raised 4 kids. We never wanted. God always provided. And here I am. So I was getting involved in politics. I was running for local politics, and that came up in last spring. People were talking to me about getting back involved and really running again for office. And that's a passion of mine, probably, especially in today's climate. It's not always healthy, but whatever. I enjoy politics. And for some reason, I didn't feel like I was supposed to.
Yeah, I was surprised. I thought you're gonna jump in there.
Yeah, so did everybody else that kept egging me to do that. And I just talked with Pat, and we talked about it and prayed about it, and she was behind it 100%. And I just said, I don't know why, but I don't feel like I'm supposed to do that. Then in August, it came up just out of the blue that there was this MySom, which is the Assembly of God's ministerial school, came up, and God's like, this is what I want you to do. And I'm like, I'm 56 years old, and you want me to go back to school that is probably going to take me 4 years to accomplish. And it's a class every month. And I learned as I got my first textbooks, it's a load. And I said, well, if this is what you want, then this is what I'm going to do. And my wife was like, are you sure? Because up to this point, that was never, schooling has never, studying has never been a passion for me. But God has, there's times I step back and I go, I really can't explain what's going on. The amount of reading, study time.
You said your last textbook was 800 pages?
Yeah. And
Old Testament.
Yeah, it's a dandy.
Yeah.
But to take my full-time job, to take responsibilities at Compelled, and then to stack this on top, God has placed in me a passion and a drive that I can't explain. I really can't explain it. And I know my wife is just like, wow, this is not what I've experienced in the last 35 years. That you could take on something like this, and but that's God. You know, if you're obedient, He'll provide a way. He's changed my attitude just in the last 8 months to something that I haven't experienced. The drive. I mean, I've always had a drive, you know, to work. I work with my hands. It's not an easy job, so you have to have a drive to get through it. But for something like this, reading has never been something that I just enjoyed. Yeah. I've read more in the last 8 months than I have in my lifetime.
Yeah.
There
you go.
And I've done it with a joy.
Yeah.
Which, just that alone.
Yeah. Where you were led and you said yes and obeyed, and God's given you the ability to get at it.
Yeah, I don't know where it leads. I don't know what it means. But that's okay. Because God knows me. Because if I knew the end game, I'd be jumping the starting gun.
Yeah,
because I go headlong into things before I know better, and He's well aware of that.
Well, it's going to be pretty exciting to see where this is going.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that. Well, something that I've always liked about you is if you feel the Lord's directing you to do something, you just do it.
Yeah, yep.
How come some people don't just do it?
Well, I'll be honest with you. It's not because I don't have apprehension, or there are times where I'm not, quite frankly, terrified.
Yeah.
But I do know through life experience that when it is God in discernment, understanding that it's God, that things never go wrong.
Right.
It may not always be the way I expect it. May not be the timing I expect it in. But man, what an experience.
Yeah.
That's abundant life. That's what abundant life is. About God putting something in your heart, asking you to do it, being obedient, and then seeing the outcome.
Yeah. That's great. I look out, our church, we're pretty diverse church, but we have a lot of guys in the trades now. We got a lot of electricians and drywallers and stuff.
Carpenters, yeah.
Carpenters, bricklayers. What would you say to the one, though, that says, I'm just too tired? Like, you're not only working full-time doing that and leading a whole crew, you're doing all these other things, plus you're in school. You haven't quit any of the other ministries. You just have a great capacity. But what would you say to the dad who's saying, I just can't, I'm just too tired. I just can't be involved in church. I'm just not going. My family will be okay if, Do you have any words of encouragement? Like, how do guys do like manual labor? Like, I worked out in the yard today. I'm still sore. Like, like I'm a pastor. Like, to really work all day, chucking those bricks, and then to be able to come home, eat, go do something else. Be faithful at church. Be faithful in your kids' lives, visiting your grandkids. What could you say that would encourage dads that are just discouraged and they're just not doing it? They just don't think they can do it all. And the spiritual part is getting the first, they're exempting that first.
Yeah. So I mean, don't get me wrong. I lived that way for a long time.
Mhm.
I lived that way in my marriage. I lived that way as a father. I still, even though not incredibly new in Christ, but new in relationship and growing relationship, I was still fairly self-absorbed. I can remember, thinking, well, that's my wife. She's the mom. That's kind of her job to raise the kids, right?
Mhm.
I remember thinking quite selfishly and arrogantly that there were certain jobs that she was supposed to do.
Mhm.
And I can remember walking up the staircase, even though there's a laundry basket there that needs to not only be carried upstairs, but laundry to be folded. And I thought, I've worked in 95 degrees heat for 10 hours today.
Mhm.
I'm beat.
Right.
I'm tired. It's time for me to relax. Well, as every mom on the planet knows, if you have children, there's very seldom is there an off button. And I would walk right past it and think, well, she'll get it. That's part of her responsibilities. And then Christ cornered me.
Mm-hmm.
And I say this to every man on the planet that's in any kind of relationship, married or dating or fiance or anything. Christ cornered me and said, you're calling yourself a Christian, but you're not doing anything that's Christ-like. I've called you to lead your family. And I'm telling you, when I spoke to the disciples, when they asked me about who's going to be the greatest, what makes a leader, I simply said, those who serve.
Mm-hmm.
That simple comment that he spoke to me through the Spirit changed. I know it has changed generations to come, because I took that and I started serving my family.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't matter what it was, the littlest things, but I actually started seeing my wife in a different role,
Mm-hmm.
as more important than me. I took Christ as a different role, as an example, and not just, quite frankly, there were times where I used him as the genie in the bottle, because things were going bad, Lord. And let me rub the lamp. You got to take care of this. But when I started serving my family as Christ served, it changed my wife's attitude towards me. It changed my kids' attitude to see how I treated my wife. It gave them an example of who Christ really is. And we all know that, that's our biggest legacy as a father.
Right.
Is the imprint that we put on them, because that's that example that they're going to see God. So when I started serving him, I had a different level of energy.
Right.
You can't explain it other than unless you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I honor God, he gives me the ability.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I'm obedient, he gives me not only the purpose, but the drive.
Yeah.
I have chosen to serve ever since then, and to be a servant, and to change it's a change of attitude. It's a complete choice. Yeah. I changed my attitude and allowed myself to put myself away, and to put my family first, put my wife first, and most importantly, above all else, to put God first.
It's great, man. That's encouraging.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I hear guys struggling and relationship struggles. And if we want the respect that we as men absolutely 100% desire,
right,
then give them something to respect.
right, yep. Well, the cool thing about your story is, and every story that I've had, is it's not over yet.
No, it's far from over.
Yeah, and so it's going to be neat to see what God continues to do. Is there anything you'd like to say as we're closing out here? Anything you'd like to encourage people for in their walk with God?
Yeah, and you said, what would I say to someone? What would I say to a guy that's struggling or searching for purpose, and what's the drive, and how do I go about it? It's simple, and it's a reality that God has spoken to me even recently. Yeah, He's God, and He's the creator of all things. But if we look at our faith as a religion, there's not going to be much drive and purpose behind it.
Mm-hmm.
But if we look at it as a relationship,
yeah,
which is exactly what He's asked us, that's what He's asked us. It's a relationship. He's not looking, as a kid growing up, I always thought it was about rules, regulations, because as a kid, that's what you're involved in. Your parents are laying down rules and regulations, and you follow them. And if not, well, then there's a price to pay.
Yeah.
And I carried that on, and I thought, I got to be good enough. When I'm good enough, then I'll get right with God. And it's not like that. It's a relationship. It's a loving Father who takes me right where I'm at. He's not expecting me to be perfect. Mm-hmm. He just wants a relationship. And if you can flip that switch and understand that there's a heavenly Father, that changed everything for me, because it gave me I finally realized who I was. Mm-hmm. Growing up, I was the life of the party. Mm-hmm. I was being the biggest, loudest, sure, all that stuff, because I didn't know who I was. I was trying to be something. But when I found out that I could have a relationship with Christ, a relationship with God, and realize that I'm a child of God, that's my identity.
Right.
That relationship. Man, when you can fall into that, when you can realize when I'm on a job site and things are going every way but right, I stop and I literally talk to God. Mm-hmm. And there's times where I don't have a clue how to fix things because there's some serious issues going on. And he speaks to me through His Spirit. You say however you want to, thoughts come into my mind, even at work as a bricklayer. He does it as a father. There's been times I didn't know what to say to my kids. I didn't know in certain situations how to get out of it. And because I chose to have a relationship, then He chose to show me when I'm obedient, when I make the right choice, to make Him first in my life, to speak to me. He'll give you the energy. He'll give you the want to, but it takes time. For the longest time in my marriage, I had to swing my feet out of bed in the morning, put them on the floor, and the first thing I told myself was, today, you're going to love your wife. Mm-hmm. Because I didn't. But when you choose every day, when you choose to love God, to love your family, to love your wife, and to make Him the pivoting point on every choice you make, you're going to fail. I fail. We all fail. But guess what? God never fails. Never fails to love us, never fails to give us grace and the mercy, never fails to forgive. He is an incredible partner that I have in life when I put Him first.
That's a great word to close with, man. Thank you. Thank you, Matt, for sharing your story. And I got to believe if you're listening to this, somebody, maybe a child, maybe grandkid that could benefit from this, a marriage, a friend. You can share it. You can subscribe. And really appreciate you being here, Matt, and being so transparent and honest. Thanks.
It's an honor. Thank you.
And we'll continue forward with what the Lord has, being filled with the Spirit, obeying His voice, And so we want to live compelled by God's love.